All right, everyone. Welcome back to Christine's channel. Let's be excited. We are back working on the van again. A lot of this winter was spent working on the race car. The race car is done. It is in the shop down at the house and ready to get loaded in the trailer next weekend. We go racing the weekend after that. Very excited about that. Happy to have the car back together, but now it's time to get back working on the van. Working on the undermount tank. This is the undermount tank for the gray side. If you remember, we have the freshwater tank already mounted. This is the 16-gallon Northwest Conversions undermount tank. It's on here, TRUC16. We got ours through, I believe through Pneumatic Supplies where we got ours through. It was $300. I've added the 100 Tech monitor or sender for the water tank level. So here's the tank itself. You can see what I've got mounted here. I've got the sender mounted here. And you can see then, because of the way this is cut out, the sender, as it floats up to the top, will reach halfway here, but this isn't going to be a true halfway because this part will go much quicker. So you just have to realize the second half will go faster than the first half. I've also added the vent line here. My intention is to put a hose on there like so. Now, I don't know how long, depends on where I can get this end of it to elevate here. I'm going to add then a breather on that, come forward, and then probably towards the wheel well, somewhere I can raise it up so I can get the vent higher than the tank, so that way it won't then want to run water out of it. I added then a drain here. Now, this is just simply a petcock here, quarter turn, and this is normal pipe thread on this end of it. That way we can then hook a hose up to it. I'll put a quick disconnect hose on here. That way I can drain it then into a tank. So let's say we're at a campground or so forth. We can hook that up and then it'll just, be able to go right into the tank and drain. But I don't have to leave it on there, risk it getting damaged, being underneath. This is what I'm working on today. We have the foil here. This foil, I'm going to cover the tank with this so that way it gives it some insulation. At this point in time, I'm not putting heating pads on there. We have heating pads on the other tank because it came with them. But we don't run it in the winter very often. If we do, we just avoid putting water in there. Now, if all of a sudden we decide that's a big benefit on the freshwater side, then I guess we can always add them here and take the tank back down and just add them on the bottom. And then we have the sheet metal here that we've bent up a little bit. It was actually on the other tank, so it's a little bit small, but once I fold the ends down, it looks like it'll fit just fine to give this a little rock protection. We'll get this all wrapped up, oil there, glued on to the tank, and then we'll be able to mount it here tomorrow, hopefully. Tank is wrapped here. This time I use Loctite spray adhesive. It is not the highest contact adhesive out there, but for this it works just fine. It's actually what I had here in the shop. That's why I used it over anything else. I cut it here because this is where the sender is. So if I ever have to work on the sender, I only have to remove this part of the foil instead of uncovering the whole thing. Here, left the petcock exposed, and since it's a quarter turn, I can still turn that. Vent is exposed. The input then for the drain is going to be here. I need to cut that out still here now. And then obviously the sender, and then I folded up this, or I actually extended it out. It was folded for the smaller tank. Now it fits the bigger tank. All right, there we go. So we got the opening cut out here. I'm gonna open up then the inside here. You got to cut the part of the plastic out here, and we're gonna mount it into the metal and see how well this all fits underneath. We're underneath the van. You can see the heat shield that surrounds the muffler right across there. Now, that flattens out this way and enters the space quite a lot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that and flatten it downwards so it comes down instead of coming across. That'll protect it a little bit more from the exhaust and give me room to mount the tank up in there a little bit easier. So what I did is I took this and I pushed it up, the whole thing up, because you still want an air gap. You don't want this to sit and touch that muffler to heat that up too much. So I still want an air gap in there. There we go, sorry. Took this and I pushed the whole thing up and folded this flat. So you can still see there's still an air gap in there around the entire muffler. Straighten that up just a little bit better to finish that up. Now, the tank has a straight shot up into where it goes. Okay, here's how it's going to fit in there. You can see how it clears that heat shield just a little bit there. Gives it a little protection here on the front side. Mainly the protection's on the bottom side in case we run over something. You can see it hangs down a little bit on the outside here. The other tank tucks up in there better. If I didn't have it wrapped as much and didn't have the casing on it, it Probably would tuck up a little bit tighter in there, but I like the casing. It does not hang down any further than the front cross member there or the exhaust. Got our parts made here. Here's the brackets I made then to mount it. Now the kit comes with some stainless steel ones, but because I wrapped mine and then put the sheet metal around it here, they're a little too wide for those to work. So I just bent up some new ones. Now I'm doing some Herculiner bed liner on everything. I just started that. Let them dry, and then we're ready to mount everything. We're back under the van now. A couple different things. There were these studs sticking out here that I'm assuming were for mounting a step, and they obviously hinder that going up all the way well, so I cut those off, put PR 15 on them obviously. And then you can see here, here's where I drilled then the holes for then the nut surge to go, or the plus nuts. And again, here, directly across from it, that's where the plus nuts are gonna go, and I made 3 spots for that, and then PR 15'd them so that way they will not rust. Now I'm gonna put the plus nuts in, and then we can start fitting the tank. Okay, got the tank now in place here underneath the van. Got it back into the case. I'm gonna lift it up into place and get the straps put on. We get the jack underneath here. Jack it up into place. It'll hold it in place so I can put the brackets on and bolt it in. You can see where I folded that heat shield down. Left a little gap now. Obviously I want an air gap on each side. So left a little air gap there, but that's still gonna shield the tank then. And then the tank mounted here. Be able to reach under here to turn my on off so it will drain. It's just a little quarter turn again. There we go, it will drain. Again, because of where this hangs, I think if I put a quick disconnect, it'll be right about to the bottom. I don't think it'll hang down enough that it'll catch on anything. We'll have to see. But if I can leave a quick disconnect, then all I have to do is reach under here and put that on there. I could also put the hose on it and then put it over here, mount the drain closer to here, so then I could just pull it out, hook a quick disconnect to it, and then put it into, you know, again, septic or whatever we're draining it into. Haven't decided yet. We'll work on that in a little bit. Again, you can see here is the electric. Let me get the light better. There's the connection for the sensor, for the tank sensor. And then here's the vent. And again, I'm gonna take this and move it and probably push it up into here. And so that way it can be above it by quite a bit. Picked up, hopefully, all the stuff we're gonna need to mount that up. Here's the basic connections. Coming out of the bottom of the van is a threaded connection, which will then connect to a 90 to carry across. Now this is not long enough, so we'll break it here and use then this part here. And then the end of that will get coupled to this from here now, which will be down on the end here. So another 90 to go underneath the frame, and then another 90 here, somewhere, depending on where this will get cut. Add the reducer on, and then onto the hose, which will connect then to the tank. That's the basic idea. Okay, now you get a little better idea how this goes together. This is where it comes out of the van, comes across. This part here is what I'm gonna cut then to get the length of this just right. Same thing with here. This, how far forward it goes before I attach the flexible hose. I'll cut that and then actually mount that. That's just pushed on there for now. Okay, now we're in the van. You can see where the drain comes out. See, there's 2 sides of that up there. One is the sink, one is then the shower. And then here's the pipe I'm gonna put on there, and it's gonna stretch forward here underneath the van, inside the wheel well, or right next to the wheel well, sorry. And that comes out there, follows right along the frame here. There we go. Right along the frame next to the shock mount. I'm going to put on the other piece onto here. It'll then turn and move forward towards the tank further. Again, coming from down there, along next to the shock mount, you can see I can easily put a hole here and tie that up. Same thing here, where it meets the frame, I can tie that up. Get a peek underneath here. So, and actually I won't have to shorten this up almost at all. I'm gonna put the adapter on here, and then from there over to the tank. The threaded part here is a little short amount there. And here we go. So I'm going to put this up and tighten this up first here so it's mounted well before I end up adding on the rest of the hose. And here is the connections then to the tank. And there's the electrical connections. The in-tank sensor basically needs a ground, so I grounded it here. Ran then the lead from the sensor down to the tank. Basically followed right along the tube here, back to the same opening there. And then last to do is to mount the vent up, and we'll be all done. You can hear the pump running here, so we're back under the van and checking for leaks. So far I don't find any. We're gonna run some water and fill the tank. You can see the water running through the drain there. And so far, no leaks. Fill the tank up, make sure this outlet here is not leaking. And then we're also gonna test to see if the sensor seems to be working. So we're gonna run water for a while and see what we've got going on. We're gonna let it run for a little bit and double check the tank meters. And it is working. This is our freshwater tank gauge, and this is our gray water tank gauge. This is our pump here. The gauge's power is run off the same switch as the pump is. That way they turn off at the same time. That way lights aren't on. We're not draining power if we don't need the pump. But you can see this one now starting to move up off empty. There's really not much in there so far. And this one's moving down slowly. And under here, obviously, you can see just in here where the pump's running. You can see where the filter is, so forth. Now we run all this under here, and I'm gonna, again, once we put the floor in, we'll put a little cover on there, so I'll always have access to this. The wiring going across in the pumps. It runs up, there's shut-off valves then inside of here, and then it runs up to the sink. See, it pumps a nice volume of water.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I just needed a close, so he's gonna close this one out.
Well, now we have the tanks done. We actually can use the water more than what we've been able to. It's been a long time coming. We've had the freshwater tank in there for quite a while. It just took a while to get the gray in. Now that it's all done, it works well. I'm happy with the way it came out. The only thing we still have a little question mark about is the size of the gray tank. That's only 16 gallons when we have 20 gallons of fresh. We'll have to see how that works out, whether we're gonna need to try to increase the gray capacity in the future. But again, we're gonna use it for quite a bit just to help us decide that. Thanks for watching.
Bye.